Monique, you're in Cape Town. Are you with any parents at the moment or teachers who are probably reacting to the fact that tomorrow it's back to normal?
I'm speaking to Vanessa Leroux from Parents for Education SA, and Vanessa has a wide-ranging network of parents who she's in touch with. She's a parent herself, just to get a sense from her, because the last time we spoke to Vanessa, it was about the high levels of school dropout rates, especially during the pandemic. The last time we spoke about how the pandemic has basically made that problem worse, that problem of school dropout. Now we see learners returning to school full-time. What have parents been telling you in your network?
Monique, I think there's a general fear among parents that there's no consistency from government side, from the DBE side in this pandemic. Nothing makes sense at this point. We are leaning more towards a narrative where we ask, is these people forcing our children back to address the unplaced learners issue, or what is the agenda here? Because nothing makes sense. We just exited, as they say, the fourth wave, but yet they're predicting the fifth wave. No one can tell us what the fifth wave holds. So how do you make then a move like this by sending all these children back, not knowing what is waiting for us? And at this point, the figures is rising. What are we looking at? They have thrown overboard all protocols in schools. So we are still facing a life and death situation, yet they are sending our children back, and we don't know what the motivation behind the move is, or why they're making these decisions on our behalf.
The Minister is going to be speaking more on this issue at 10 o'clock, giving more clarity on the return of learners. What are you hoping to hear from her?
I think looking at the DBE statement from the day before, there's nothing new. It's almost like they're saying the pandemic is gone. We can go back to full-time learning. And yes, full-time learning should continue, but it shouldn't be at the expense of our children. It shouldn't be at the expense of the safety of our children and teachers at this point. So at this point, as a parent, I'm asking, what did you do for the past 2 years? Why couldn't you plan according to this pandemic? We don't know how many waves we still can expect at this point. Why didn't you plan accordingly? But there's no creative thinking in the DBE or any other province at this point as we see it. It's just these children must go back to full-time learning, to the traditional way of full-time learning, and that's it. Knowing that we are facing a pandemic, there's no consideration for the safety, there's no consideration for what happens if we are facing with strains that we have no control over. So at this point, I think the DBE and government is creating more instability than stability, because if we face the fifth wave, and it's something that we don't have control over, we will have to close again. So how is the point should be returning to full-time education, creating stability, having in mind we are still facing a pandemic at this point.
Thank you very much. That was Vanessa Leroux from Parents for Education SA, sharing her thoughts on what she would like to hear the Minister addressing in her briefing a little later, saying that more clarity should be given on how the department plans on ensuring the safety of learners and teachers once they do return to full-time learning.
All right, Monique, I'm hearing that we have Manqoba back, who's in Johannesburg. Manqoba, you are with a parent. Are they concerned at all about their children having to go back to school with full capacity tomorrow?
Well, Masiko, certainly many of the parents that we've spoken to here are saying that they're quite excited actually to see that the pupils will be going back to classes tomorrow. Of course, they have been quite concerned about the school time that has been lost due to COVID-19 and those strict regulations that we saw over the past 2 years. But I'm just going to bring them in and try again, Masiko. Perhaps this time it's going to work. Bapen, let's start with you, Bapen. How are you feeling as a parent knowing that the kids are going back to school from tomorrow?
Yes. We are very happy as parents that our children will be able to go back to full time, because, you know, when this pandemic started, wrong door was opened. Door as in DOR, which is the dropout rate. We always have been having this problem in the community of children not finishing their school up to the end. Now, the pandemic actually made that to be a bit worse. And, you know, especially in child-headed families where, you know, there's a little level of authority for somebody who's an adult to be saying, hey, go to school. So it actually makes most of our children to not finish school as stipulated.
And were you concerned as parents about the amount of school time that has been lost over the past 2 years?
No, very much so. Remember that when we are at work, we have to leave children at home unsupervised. And, you know, even the fridge gets looted quite often than usual. And we think that because now children spend time, you know, moving around in the streets and playing. And, you know, when they now have to, even on that particular day when they have to go to school, you will see that they're a little bit struggle, you know, in some of the learning areas.
And in terms of safety, Baba, are you sure, or are you feeling safe that your child will be protected against COVID-19? How are you feeling in terms of safety at school?
You know, as the experts, you know, from the medical field have guided us that we are not yet out of the woods. And I think that we should always adhere to protocol, you know, wearing of masks, sanitizing, washing of our hands, and trying to keep distant as far as it is possible.
Okay, thank you. Let's move now to your son, who's a grade 9 pupil at one of the schools here. Mbuso, if you can just come closer, how are you feeling? Are you feeling excited that you're finally going to be going back to school full-time this time?
Yes, I'm excited that we'll go to school fully and we'll be able to pass nicely, because, you know, we're not going to school. We are going little periods, but now we will be able to go fully.
And in terms of how has that affected you, you know, not going to school full time, were you able to focus, or was it difficult to study?
It was difficult to focus and study. We forget the things because we go once in a while. It was difficult, but now it will be easy.
Okay, and then just finally, in terms of COVID-19, do you think that as a pupil, do you think that it's time perhaps that you also should be allowed to take off your masks?
Yes, but we still need to follow the protocols, but maybe we can take off the masks.
Oh, okay. Okay, thank you very much, Mbuso, for speaking to us. Of course, it was father and son here, the Dubes here in Protea North, Masigo, speaking to us there about the expectations of the upcoming days. Of course, the father saying that he hopes that the looting will be less this time on his fridge.